It is the 200th episode on Constructing You, but only for this episode, I've handed over the microphone. And stay tuned, you are going to find out who I've handed it over to. I have reflected many times on the journey that producing this podcast for the industry has taken me. I love the moments when I have a guest and in not so many words, you just connect with them on so many levels. And I absolutely love the sense of discovery in an interview where I can get as close as possible to the core of a person so that you can see who they really are. I've never been interested in the publicly available profiles. It's always about who the person is. And more than anything, I love the messages that I get when I release an episode, and it has created such an impact to who you are and also what you see as possible within the industry. Because if you're not speaking the language of ambition and achievement, then what language are you speaking? Now, if you have been on the journey with me, then you would have heard the new series on the show, which is Young Guns. And I know a young gun when I see one. And I respect their drive. I respect their ambition. And above all, I respect their rejection of all that is standard and all that is mediocre in the industry. They're the ones who run into the unknown, and they're the ones who, despite their age, despite their experience, which they know has no qualification as to what you can achieve, they make bold moves in the face of uncertainty. And they're the ones who are here not to fit in, but only to stand out. Now, in my community, there's two young guns that have always added so much value to me, personally and professionally. And for a very long time now, they have been invaluable. And I have absolutely loved seeing them go from level to level and continuously upgrade and go after what they want. And also why I'm here with you today for a very special 200th episode on Constructing You. Now, it is Constructing You which brought these two hosts into my world. The first one is Brian Vo. And if there is anyone who is reflective of becoming who they need to so that they can achieve what they want, is the second host for today, and that is Daisy Wu. Now, both of these young guns have covered more ground in their career, in their time that I've known them, than most do in their whole careers. And both of them do remind me of who I was when I first started my journey. And it's why I won't be the host today, but I have Brian Vo and Daisy Wu joining me today to be the hosts in the first reverse interview on Constructing You. Hello, Brian, all the way from Cambodia, and hello, Daisy. It is a pleasure to have you here with me on this very special episode.
Hi, Elinor. Hey. Thanks for having us back on.
My pleasure. Hello, Daisy. Good to see you.
Welcome to the house, Elinor.
Yeah, yes. I was getting ready to come on and I feel a little bit nervous, of course, excited, but I know that the questions you're going to ask are going to be dynamic, are going to be powerful, because I respect how you think, how you perceive, and how you address your own careers. Now, for all intents and purposes, both of these wonderful hosts for today have been notified that there are no questions that there are off limits, and I have not been notified in advance of any questions. So we're both going to find out together where this episode is going to go. So I'm excited to get started. I'm handing over the mic officially. Who would like to take the first question?
I'll take the first question for our Fast Foundations.
Okay.
So, Elinor, where'd you grow up?
In Melbourne.
And where do you live now?
In Melbourne.
What's your favorite quote?
The only way to get ahead is to get started.
You're going to love the next one. What is one of your superpowers out of the many?
Apparently, my voice.
And what is one of your favorite books? We all know readers are leaders.
Readers are definitely leaders. Favorite is, hard to pick, because there have been so many books that have been very imperative at pivotal moments in my life. And I'll give this one to the book which enabled me to make one of the most important and biggest decisions that I have made in my life. I read the book Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and this was on the weekend that I needed to decide, am I going to work with my mentor, Ron Malhotra, or am I going to take the conventional route, go back to doing what I was doing? I read that book in 48 hours, and at the end of it, I said, I have to work with Ron Malhotra. There is no other option. Maybe I would have made that decision if I didn't read the book, but one thing I do know is that the right books find you at the right time. And when you do have that beautiful alchemy of time and words that change your trajectory, there's nothing more powerful. So I will give the favorite book to the one that changed my trajectory, to T. Harv Eker.
Sorry, could I just say on top of that, like, it's so funny how, the right books do find us at the right time. Because for myself recently, I found a book called 0 to 1. And I read that in 2 sittings, like within 48 hours. And that kind of like led me, it was at a space where I was thinking about like an idea I had for a startup. And it just came at the right time, and I just demolished that book, and it was a great mindset shift for me. So yeah, I just wanted to add that to your experience as well. I had the same experience.
And you find sometimes when you pick up a book, no matter how brilliant the title is, you cannot get through it. But then even if that book finds you a few years later, it will serve its purpose. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of books, and why, of course, I love creating it for the same purpose. So I'm glad that book found you at the right time.
Most definitely. Daisy?
Couldn't have said anything better than Constructing You, i.e. Elinor's best-selling book, really hit the shelf at the right time. That really inspired and empowered many of us in the community, especially considering how that overlapped and coincided with the pandemic in the last 2 years. And with that in the backdrop, Elinor, what are some of your ongoing challenges?
When you're an entrepreneur, it's a very different world from being something that I was for a very long time, which is a corporate employee. So every day I am challenged by something new in business, in the entrepreneurial journey, whether that manifests in a personal way from my own growth or the business front. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I would take these challenges of seeing something flop over and over again, because every time that it does, it just means I'm one step closer to have it where I need it to be. And I love the creativity that I'm challenged by every single day. Every single day, I'm asking myself better questions. How can I do this? What do I need to do? How can I better serve my community? So I will always be challenged by this, but I always see that as a positive thing, because what that means is I need to refine my own thinking. I need to look for different solutions. I need to have different conversations. So I don't see it as a challenge. I see it as something new that I need to explore. Over the last 2 years, I haven't really had the chance to network or meet, quote unquote, truly like-minded people, especially in the entrepreneurial space. And that is something that I am looking forward to, is increasing that new network, which I haven't discovered. People who want to talk about marketing and want to talk about all the things that are relevant to business. So again, not a challenge, it's a new frontier to explore.
Yeah, it's really glad to learn that you're inspired by your challenges, wherein you're trying to acquire and become more versed in the new languages of entrepreneurship and business development. Yeah, I guess I can boil that down to the only way forward is stepping forward, if not making leaps and bounds forward.
That's right, you got it.
And of course, on your pathway in entrepreneurship, there are a lot of lessons to be learned. What's something that you're learning right now?
If you think it's going to take X amount of time, it will take this much time. And again, these are things that you know because you've experienced it beforehand. But every time that you meet this challenge again, when you're faced with it again, you do need to remind yourself that it will take longer, especially in the early stages as well. And it's also about knowing how to truly identify the core problem. And that is something which you need to spend a lot of time in the discomfort of. And that's okay, I'm very used to it. but sometimes because you want to move quickly, you want to quickly come up with a solution, but you need to diagnose the problem properly in the first place. So learning how to do that is imperative, and something that I do know from where I was this time last year, I am getting better. You don't want to be diagnosing the symptom. You always want to be diagnosing the root cause of the problem in business. Why isn't this working? What is actually happening?
Yeah, and acknowledgeably, the latter path is, I guess, less frictionless and the longer path as well, but it's mandatory, wherein we really need to forego the instant gratification, really take time, put aside the time to work out and to rewire. I guess it's also
Exactly.
less trouble.
Exactly. That's right.
So what's one of your favorite achievements today on the occasion of taping the 200? So on the podcast.
I'll give it to my podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, many achievements. I mean, I look at the people that I get to have in my world because of my business, because of who I am. And, you know, to think that if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would never meet the Brians and Daisies of the world. It's always the people and relationships that you get to forge because of you becoming all of who you are is something so valuable and intangible and can truly only be experienced. You can't understand this on an intellectual level, right? I mean, Brian, you know, you would relate to this with Steph. It's not something that if you both weren't moving towards your passions and the value you want to create, you wouldn't have found each other. I think that's one of the most special things. Of course, you know, being able to have this podcast that started 2 years ago, and I was banking that only my mum and a few family members in Israel would listen, but now to have it nearly on 100K downloads, to be able to do this with you, to have the quality and caliber of guests across the world is a huge achievement. I'm really proud to see 2 best-selling books under my name, Constructing Your Career and Leadership in Construction. But all in all, I'm always inspired what I've been able to create when everyone doubted me, when no one said it would be possible, when nothing like this has been done before. And I am, I guess, doing what other guests do, is take the opportunity on this episode to sit down and truly reflect on how far you have come.
Yes, you definitely have come very far indeed. I mean, I think we all were put on this earth or in this universe to create somehow. And, you know, we can definitely see that you're definitely creating so many things, and it's of so much value to all of us. So thank you for that, Elinor.
Thank you.
So moving on to the last question of the Fast Foundations. What's your favorite building or project?
There's many, of course. And now that I'm actually being asked, and I'm always surprised, why is it so hard to choose? But it actually is. And I've thought about this question. I do love Zaha Hadid's Maxi Museum in Rome. I saw this when I was on my Euro trip, probably 10, 11 years ago now. And it was iconic and remarkable at the time because I was fascinated with all things architecture. And I do love that quite sleek, very clean, very melodic type of architecture. And that's a building that I always, you know, think back to and think that was a beautiful building to actually experience, even though it is just, you know, a massive concrete structure. I do, of course, love so many of those, you know, ornate buildings and hotels. Absolutely love luxury hotels across the world. And I've, you know, been fortunate to see so many iconic and historic buildings, but I think that building cemented my passion for the built environment, and to actually see, you know, this melodic concrete ramp, this was built, it is possible. And it is what really, I think, sparked my interest at the time more in the construction rather than the architecture. So I'll give that building to that answer, that question.
Well, I haven't done a Euro trip yet, but I guess I know where I should definitely make a stop by now when I go to Europe. And it's so funny as kind of like built environment nerds, how we can find like inspiration from like such, you know, things. Like for me, the other night I was at a Japanese restaurant and the design was so good in the bath. Like I went to the bathroom and I spent like a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes just admiring all the little details. And then I came out and my mom knew. She was like, you were just admiring like the build quality,
Yes.
weren't you? And the design. I was like, yeah, you got me.
Yeah, you can't take us anywhere. It just adds to the time. And we talk about the coving and the ceiling height. So yes, we can be a bit annoying, of course.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, I think with that, we'll move on to the hard-hitting questions that you definitely are not prepared for, or that you didn't know, but I know you'll be prepared for. So, Elinor, through our mentoring sessions, we've done a lot of work where you place Daisy and I on the hot seat to find our whys. I want to return the favor. You're a podcast host, a mentor, author of 2 books, public speaker, panelist, featured in multiple articles. What's your why?
As you said before, Brian, we are put here in this lifetime with a very unique purpose. And it all boils down to servitude. We are all here to, within our own unique different ways, to use what we have been universally and divinely gifted in order to serve others. I don't use the word help because not everyone wants to be helped, right? You can't help those who do not want to be helped, but we are here to serve. So I know that what I have been given, I have a duty to fulfill, to show people what is possible. I have a duty to fulfill, to not just inspire people, but to enable them to pursue what they want. Because I was that person who fell into so much convention. I was that person who shrunk myself and I lost 95% of myself. And that was horrible. And I can only say that now because at the time I didn't realize I had no point of comparison. So my duty is to construct exceptional futures, and that does require people to A, pursue what they want, A, to reject all things that are mediocre, and of course to be all of who they are. And if I can even be a small part of enabling people to realize that, so that they can experience life in Technicolor instead of grayscale, then I am of service. A big why that I have been, through my own exploration of self is to lead. And I am driven by being the leader that my community not just wants, but needs. There is a difference. What people think that they need versus what they want is different. And I know that for me to constantly be the great leader, it does require me to always upgrade my own consciousness, my own perspective, my own knowledge, and my own wisdom. So a big part of my why is to lead, and another big part is to show people what is possible so that they can live life on their own terms.
Yeah, I think that's so important as well, what you're saying in terms of, leading and constantly, pushing the boundary, because, I know from our community, your community, Daisy and I and Steph, and so many others that you still when we came on, you had 1 book, but you were still pursuing and you're still leading, and then you wrote a 2nd book. And so you leading by example is also us in the background. It inspires us. So thank you so much for that, for both serving and leading.
Thank you.
Well, that's really brilliant encapsulating, Elinor, of a journey again that is quite challenging and the path less trouble, where you have to constantly elevate yourself to heighten consciousness and also expand the resourcefulness to be able to deliver the value to a greater community. But I do wonder, however, when you started at the outset, what were the mental hurdles, or namely any fears or doubts that you may be possessing?
All of them that one can think of, I had. When I was first starting out, well, what happened, I had the name. I didn't have a clue what any of this would look like. And I had a mentor at the time. That mentoring relationship had to expire so that greater things could come into my world. And I didn't, of course, know that at the time. And I remember telling that mentor my idea. I even felt nervous even expressing it. I was like the construction, like I couldn't even get the words out with confidence. And that idea was shot down immediately. It's like, oh, so you don't want to, climb the corporate ladder and, oh, who do you think you are? And, if you want to do this, you should just become an entrepreneur straight away, like it was a dirty thing that wasn't available for me. And then because I held that mentor's opinion in more accord than my own, that started filling me with doubt. It's like, this is probably stupid. Why would I do this? I should go back into my small box. This hasn't been done before. It doesn't really make sense. How am I going to balance my corporate career and this? That's just a small fragment. And I parked the idea. But an idea, it just kept on nagging at me, kept on coming back. And I knew I had to do something with it. I had to launch. So a month later, I did. I put aside what said mentor thought. Then when I launched, I was like, oh, what will people think? What are they going to say? What's the employer going to say? And of course, the questions start coming in immediately, very basic, irrelevant questions. And then the next level of doubt comes in. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I ever going to be able to? I don't have the experience. I don't have the knowledge. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I need to go seek that knowledge. I need to go then find the people who have the results that I actually want. And then the doubts start coming up when you start showing up more online. Who is going to listen? What if they don't like me? What if? Now, of course, the doubts do not ever relinquish, right? The thing is, they don't have a hold on me. Every time I want to do something, there is that pang of doubt. But you can't have doubt and belief and doubt and faith at the same time. They cannot coexist. And I always choose faith. I always choose that I'm not going to listen to my doubts because I've manufactured them. And I know that I have been given this idea for this reason. I need to be a vessel with no resistance so that the universe can move smoothly throughout me. But every single time I've wanted to do something, it has always been met with some sort of external or internal resistance. But the key is you don't listen to it. You don't need to give it any power and any agency. And this, I know that every time you go up to the next level, these doubts do seed, but again, they don't have that hold on you. And the doubts that I had when I first started, of course, not the same ones that I harbor today.
Yeah, it's always faith over fear, as you brilliantly articulated on the occasion of your recent book launch of Leadership in Construction. It really hit the spot, and that really, really inspired the room again. And throughout your mentoring, I was really grateful for a lot of these philosophy that you just elaborated to trickle down throughout our journey, namely faith over fear and also doubting our doubts. But still, at what point did you realize that you were ready and you were good enough to launch your business?
That's a great question. And I don't think I've been asked that before in over 50 interviews that I've had. It's the vision. And you both know the imperativeness on the vision. It is the vision which unlocked everything for me, because I looked at my vision. I conceived this vision for myself. Where did this come from? It came from divine intelligence, divine intervention. The vision found me. And what was my option? To say, you know what? No vision. I'm going to not pursue. I'm not even going to give you a fighting chance. I will actually go and do something mediocre like everyone else. And I'm going to relinquish all possibility because of a few doubts. That doesn't make sense when you say it out loud. It doesn't make sense, but that is exactly, not you two, but exactly what 90% of people in the world do. The vision had more of a hold for me. I was more inspired by pleasure than I was driven by pain. And I also came to the conclusion, when will I ever be good enough? Right? I am already good enough. You are already good enough. Brian is so much good enough. Like, we come with this mentality that we don't have what it takes. Of course we do. We have our mind, we have the ability to create, we have the ability to imagine, and we have the ability to choose our beliefs and choose what we give agency to. So there was never going to be this mythical time where I would be this golden, shiny example. I had to create that. And that was one of the first lessons that I had to realize, that this vision isn't a vision that someone who takes small, mediocre, tiny actions ever has. I first set on the path of thinking, this person who has this vision, who do they need to be? That's who I need to become. Are we ever going to be good enough? We are more than good enough. The universe, whatever you want to call it, the universe, divine intelligence, God, the creator, whoever you relate to, they would not put us on this earth with anything lesser than what we need in order to have everything that we want. It doesn't make sense. And when you truly internalize and understand that belief, you realize how powerful you actually are.
Right. And everything that we need, we already have in us. Like everything that we ever need for our journey, we all have it within our inner self.
Exactly.
Well, yep. Switching gears a little bit, I know personally on my end, the feeling of getting multiple cadetship offers at the end of the Constructing Your Career mentoring program, then the mindset shift at the end of the MBA of Success Mastermind with yourself and Ron. It was so impactful, victorious, and immense for me. I just want to know, what's it like on the other side, as a mentor, tell us how you feel when you see your clients, transform from, who they were from, that initial consultation session to, all the way at the end of the journey and even throughout when they get the results that, they desired.
Well, you said it. They get the results that they desired, whatever it is that you want. And it is the most rewarding feedback loop that there actually can be. Getting that call or getting that message at midnight at 7 a.m. It's like, I need to talk to you. This happened. And the excitement. And it's not about me. It's that they realize that, hey, I can do it. I did have it within me. And if I do this, I can do this. If I do this, then I can do this, this, and this. And it is the most rewarding feedback loop. And it is why I do what I do. And, every message that I get in thanks or every message of achievement from everyone, I always save those. And when things get tough, that is exactly what I look to. And I realize that this is what it is actually for. And it's not that any of the mentees or clients that I work with, that anything was missing. No one is missing anything. No one is broken. It's just that we all need someone to guide us. We all need someone to hold up a mirror and to show us what is possible and to show us all of who we can be. The difference is that some people choose to take that path. They choose faith over fear, and other people choose to be married to their comfort zone and not actually do anything. And you can't ever tell someone, hey, these are all the things you will miss out on. It is actually something that you have to experience for yourself. But being able to know that I get to do what I love, and because I do what I love, other people then also get to do what they love, and they get to realize that they can achieve whatever it is that they want, and they can pursue what it is that they want, and they can reject convention and tiny boxes for them to fit into. And then they have realizations and their thinking redefines. It is so impressive to watch, and it is truly such a pleasure and a privilege to be that person that my mentees choose as their guide. In a world full of people, to be, chosen and to get to be part of someone else's journey. It's why, going back to the first question, it's why I also do what I do, and it's a privilege.
I do want to share that from my experience thus far, having you as my mentor and a very inspirational thought leader in the community, you're really, really depth and motivational interviewing, and you also are a very influential listener. Could you just share a bit more light on how you do this as you liaise with the current clients and also the prospective clients? How is it important?
It's a very good question. When I both interviewed you, why I loved it so much was to see the quality of your thinking, right? The questions that you're asking, I know you're asking me really good questions, but it also means you're asking yourself really good questions and people around you really good questions. And when you ask really good questions, you also start getting better outcomes. So I do want to quickly take the mic and reverse and say, I'm really proud of, the questions you're not just asking me, but the quality of your thoughts. But to answer your question, most people assume too much, right? They assume that, oh, Daisy's early 20 or Brian's, early 20s. What would they know? They don't have experience. They don't have this. They don't have that. They only see people through their current lens in the current reality. They think, they're young. What do they know? They need to go get 10 years of corporate experience in order to be able to do something. No, you don't. So most people only see people through their own lens. They're not able to actually empty their mind of any preconceived notions about the person and truly go on the journey of discovering that person. And what I can do and what I have been, taught how to do through my own mentoring experience is not to be able to see people through any of those things, but to see them for their potential, to see them for who they really are and who they really can be. And the high performance people, the A players of the industry, this was the analogy that my mentor, Ron Maholcho, gave to me. We're all Ferraris, right? We're all amazing cars, but we haven't been used in quite some time. There's a few leaves stuck in the engine. They just need to be cleared out and then off you go. Is everyone made equally? Yes. Does everyone make equal choices? No. That's what separates us, right? But we all have equal capability and equal resourcefulness, but people choose not to see it. So you truly need to be able to clear your mind of any preconceived notions. And people have these biases, but they aren't able to refine their own thinking to bring it to the surface and then actually challenge that notion and say, well, this isn't actually true. I get told all the time, people who are young, they don't have ambition. No, that's not true. They do have ambition. Not all of them have equal amounts of ambition. And not all of them, some don't actually have any ambition, fine. But yes, there are young people who are willing to take immediate and massive action and do something differently. It has nothing to do with age. So again, being able to truly have no thoughts, no preconceived notions, no assumption about who they are today, and actually truly look into your heart and say, you know what, this person could be this, and this. Again, it's based on what they want. It's not what I want. It's showing them an alternative reality.
Think and think again. And in saying so, actually, the two concepts I mentioned before, namely motivational interviewing and influential listening, are from a book I really like recently. That's Adam Grant's Think Again. So yeah, and back to what you just articulated, I believe what you've done so far already presents itself as a great departure and divorce from the conventional pathways and career intelligence. And I can readily conjure up and vividly recall second one of our vetting call when I was about to join your mastermind. You already launched me on the path of rethinking and reevaluating my back then immediate concern, which was to make the next leap in quantity surveying, which was just a fracture of the conventional pathway again. So I'm really grateful for that. And would you mind just sharing a bit more on how you inspire those to have their unconscious limiting beliefs surface? Because you previously did mention that you cannot help those who do not want to be helped, but I also appreciate that some people really need some aid to make the unconscious more conscious. Otherwise, they will call this a fate.
One thing that I hate the most is irony. People will say, you can do anything you want and, you should become an author. They've never written a book. They've never probably even read a book. I don't know. That's just a bold, broad brush statement, but they haven't done anything. You can only lead by example. And I know we hear that all the time, but not a week goes by where I don't see someone on LinkedIn saying A, doing B. If you look behind the facade of most people who put themselves out there to be A, you truly get into those conversations, the one Stacey we were talking about, truly getting into the person. You look at their actions, they do not align with their words. I saw someone saying something like, everyone has a book within them and you should write a book. They've never written a book. I can't tell someone you should ride a bicycle if I've never ridden one. That's irony. That's being a hypocrite. And this is why I always, tell people, look behind the facade. What results does an individual have? I'll give another example. I remember being in conversation with someone and they were saying, I want to mentor people to be highly influential authorities within their industry. I said, sure. Are you that person? No. How are you then going to guide someone to achieve a result that you haven't achieved for yourself? And I wrote this in my book. People want to see leaders who can generate success for themselves before they will give them any attention and any sort of credibility. So, thank you for recognizing me as an inspiration. I appreciate that. But that only becomes because I say what I do. I'm not going to tell anyone, let's go start a $10 million business. I haven't done that for myself. I can only take someone insofar as where I have gone, because then I have solved the problem for myself. And that's why it's important that I keep on upgrading so that I can take people further, right? So I am, thank you for considering me an inspiration. You're assessing my actions, and my actions to you are inspirational because it is showing you, hey, this is possible. Hey, this person didn't come from any magnificent background. You all know my story, 2 conventional degrees, the most conventional corporate career. I was the most perfect employee until I realized, hang on, something isn't right here. I wasn't given any hand-me-downs. No one did anything for me. But hey, this person wrote 1 book and then another book, and then there's 200 episodes. And then, of course, there's more to come. So the key is the results. If you can achieve results for yourself and then you share those results and someone else perceives that as being, hey, you know what, I would like to do the same, but in my own way, fantastic. To truly inspire others, you need to achieve for yourself first.
100%. And I think, I know for yourself, the results speak for themselves. But we all know that these results don't just happen overnight. And in this journey, it's a lot of small steps and small actions that lead up to, achieving the result. So I want to know, and, this is for all the listeners, kind of, what does the day-to-day look like for a high achiever and a high performer like yourself? What are the questions you ask yourself daily? And what are the habits that you have?
Great question. It fluctuates from what am I doing to I got this. And you go through quite the cycle within one circle. Without, itemizing an exact routine, the first thing that I have to do is feed into my mind, body, and soul. I want to be a strong leader, not a weak leader. And strength doesn't come from just having, a strong mind. I need a strong body. I need a very strong spirit and a very strong soul. So the first thing that I have to do is control what goes in here. From our respective sessions, how important journaling is to me. So, in no particular order, I have to journal on a daily basis. When I'm disconnected from the page, it means that I'm disconnected from my mind and disconnected from the heart. And the quality of outcomes, not just in my life, but the quality of outcomes that I can achieve for other people, the quality of content that I can share is reflective, of course, of the quality of my own thoughts. Journaling is the space where I can refine my thoughts, where I can practice my writing, right? I'm as good as the content and the solutions that I put out. So I need that space in order to connect with my mind and with my heart. That happens on the page. I read. If I don't read, I'm listening to an audiobook. And I do this throughout the day anyway. But if I have net time, I'm constantly seeking to learn something, right? Learning does have to be relevant to what you are doing right now, but there are, of course, curiosities and things that I do like to explore. Some very abstract topics at times, but I always follow that curiosity because I don't know where that knowledge might benefit someone else. Exercise, right? Again, that strong body. If I stop, then there's no business. If I cannot show up with full energy, with full velocity to clients, if I cannot give more energy than they have, then I'm doing a disservice to my clients as well. And in order to speak, some days I've got 10 hours of sessions. That's energy. And I can still go into the evening, right? Into the night. I don't stop because I'm also energized by the work. But again, it does take a certain level of physical stamina to do that. And then, of course, prioritizing is huge. It's very easy to do the low-hanging activities, things that do not bring you the greatest things within your business. And that's something that you always have to be very conscious of, not to do something that is easy to give you a false sense of productivity. So it's always looking first to the clients, right? Regarding any sessions that I have, any upcoming calls that I have with clients. What does this client need? Where are they at? Do I feel that they're stuck? Can I, sometimes you can just sense that I need to give this person a call. So my focus is first and foremost on serving clients. And then, of course, from the business function, the two most important function is business. In business is marketing and sales. So a lot of the time is always about creation of value in terms of growing the brand, growing the business. How can I add value to my community? It's podcast production, it's writing books. These are things that bring value to my world and my audience. So that needs to take up the most time of the day. Residual time then falls into working on the business, not just in the business, because otherwise, if there's no captain of the ship, then what's going to happen in 3 months' time? So generally, that is where the day-to-day actually looks like. And then, of course, there's this time gone for session delivery as well.
What you're saying there in terms of journaling and, asking yourself those questions daily and constantly, that, you're always rehoning and keeping in touch with, your most authentic self. And I guess in doing that, when you do, like, in our sessions, we've discussed and we've found out, how important energy really is. And especially, when you're delivering it online, to bring that energy, it needs, you need that extra kick. And I think, with you always being, rehoning and being authentic, that when you do have those long days where you just have back-to-back sessions, bringing that energy is, I'm not saying it's easy, but it comes easier, or it's less of a problem because you're in your purpose, and you're kind of in your element. So, yeah.
That's right. Energy is everything, and I know you both know this, and, you, Brian, out of everyone, have just this natural fountain of energy that just comes naturally to you. But you look at people around you and they're as flat as a pancake. You ask them, how are you? Not bad. That's a double negative. If people are not energized by this life, by what they're doing, by what they get to do, by what they can do, what are you going to be excited by? I mean, how can someone not be excited by everything that is possible in this life, everything that can happen? And everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, as the great Nikola Tesla said. So if you can't show up to life with energy, as Ron Malhotra, my mentor, always says, you have to first give to life before life gives back to you. And if you look around, what are people giving to life? Nothing.
On that note, we almost forgot to do the energy check. That's what we immediate past to ritualize every mastermind session. But back to energy, I do appreciate that we probably really need to embrace an attitude of service where we treat everyone around us with respect like a client. Otherwise, we may just be flat and then really laid back whoever we deal with in person or online. I guess that lax attitude is not going to really deliver sustainable results.
Exactly.
And wouldn't also set us on the path of showing up consistently, even on the bad days or the long days when things may not come our way. So what about consistency?
And that's the key. How do you maintain energy whilst being able to have the setbacks, have the challenges, look at everything that is negative in the world? That's real strength, right? And most people have, it's easy to have high energy when you have toxic positivity, and which is being blind and ignorant, right? But maintaining your energy despite everything that may not be going your way, that is actually the key. And that is why having that strong character, that strong mind, that strong spirit and body is imperative. So well said, Daisy. Thank you.
And I guess these days, with so many temptations around us, it may present us a challenge to really refrain from the adrenaline surge or the dopamine surge. It's not just social media, but anything that may give us instant gratifications or just can temporarily numb us from those possibly unpleasant and uncomfortable activities that can, for people, be journaling or self-reflection reflection. And I still recall just at the earlier phases of the mastermind where you impart the notion of aside the time or the me dates initially feel like a waste of time as if we were not being productive during that slots, but over time they really pay dividends. And that's just the act of compounding, I guess, trusting the process, really just applying ourselves to, I guess, a new way of approaching things that will transform our frame of mind over time.
That's right. You got it.
Touching back, kind of going back to the start, when you started out, you obviously, you had your vision for what you saw for, this entrepreneurship journey. How has that, as you've gone along and, you've achieved the results you've achieved, has that vision changed? How has it changed? Or, what is the vision like now?
I remember the first version of the vision, and it felt so unachievable. It felt like something that would, not unachievable. Let me correct that. It felt like something that would take an extensive amount of time. It would have if I had chosen to do it by myself and try and figure out everything by myself. You need to be able to play the fool. And by that meaning, you don't have the knowledge. If I already had the knowledge back then as to everything that I wanted to achieve, I would have already done it by then. But I didn't, which is why, again, through divine intervention, I found my mentor, Ron Malhotra. And because I worked with Ron, I was able to shorten that 10-year vision into a 1-year vision. And then I realized, hang on, I've achieved this. Okay, what now? So the vision does need to change in that it always needs to expand. And the thing is, you evolve, you go up to different levels, you find, things that you want to keep on doing or do differently. And that's great. I think the core of the vision is always the same, that I do have the vision to be, a globally recognized thought leader, to be one of the most impactful people within the construction industry on a global scale. So at its core, it has been the same, that I want to, become an author. Well, okay, I've become a best-selling author. Okay, what's next, right? The ultimate goal is to be a New York Times bestseller. That's the golden ticket of authorship, right? What the vision looks like now, it is a more magnified version, using Ron's terminology, of doing more of what I'm doing on a broader scale. How can I always reach more and more people so that they can be positively impacted and that they can actually think about, hey, what do I want? Think about yourself. I want you to think about yourself. But then, of course, as I grow and as I change, there's more and more that I feel that the community does need this. So it's also about, how can I always bring in more opportunities, more development opportunities? I would love to see everyone live out their authentic purpose, to be in total alignment with themselves. That's a utopia that I know won't happen in my lifetime. But a big part of the vision, at first when I started, you do think small, but now it's like, I can't fulfill this mission by myself. I need more Brian and Daisies of the world, right? So the focus is always going to be, how can I create more leaders who are then going to create more leaders? It is always about that ripple effect. So we want to maximize that ripple effect and get to as many corners of the world that we want. Of course, when there's one business, like there's one book, you want two, there's one business, you want two businesses, it will not end. So, of course, it's about always setting those strong foundations and then letting the compounding effect kick in through, of course, strategic and continuous action. But when you ask that question, when I first started, I didn't even think any of this was possible. Because when you're standing at the outset of any journey, it's very easy to quantify what you may lose. Very easy. You can put that in an Excel sheet. What you cannot easily quantify is everything that you will gain ongoing exponentially for the rest of your life. So even at the 2-year mark, I didn't think that I would be getting to do this. I mean, I didn't imagine that I would get the podcast to nearly 100,000 downloads. I didn't think there would be so many, you do one best-selling book and then another one. So I'm learning how to also listen to life and listen to flow instead of control. And that's something that I've learned, is that I have been very rigid in my approach, but I find that when I learn to flow, and this is something that I do need to learn at times, When I learn to flow, there's more room for that magic and creativity to come in.
Yeah, thanks for providing some great background for the next question, Elinor, covering how you elevated, escalated, and translated your vision. But down the track, you might have, as you mentioned before, overcome a lot of mental hurdles and limiting beliefs. So on that account, could you share your narratives around being a perfectionist and the pros and cons on that?
I'm not a perfectionist. I have really high standards, as do all of you, for yourself, but I'm not disabled by, I need it to be perfect before I do anything. We don't start with perfect, we end with perfect. So I recorded my audiobook for Constructing Your Career. And when I was reading it out loud, sometimes I was like, wow, this is not my best work. But at the time, it really was my best work. And as much as I wanted to criticize and fault, I realized that it's part of the journey. Second book is better. Third book will be better. Fourth book will be better. If I had suspended myself in motion, waiting for this perfect book to come, I would have never had a book. I wouldn't have had anything. My first interview on Constructing You versus the 200th interview and what will be the 300th and the 500th, they are worlds apart. And this is where people falter, is that they are uncomfortable taking imperfect action because they're scared that it's a failure. They're scared that, what will other people think? Other people aren't doing anything. They haven't created anything, right? So as long as you are creating, you are adding value, you are working to master your craft, you will go so far. Again, compounding and consistency, two beautiful things when they come together. Of course, I would love to get it right the first time, but I don't. It's impossible. The only way I'll find out how things need to work, whether it's a process in my business, whether it's working and getting a certain type of result for a certain client, only comes through doing. There is no other way. And if everything would just be perfect from the outset, well, where's the experience? Where's the journey? Where is the joy? Where is the learning? What would I teach other people? How would other people learn, right? It's this notion of perfectionism, which simply locks people into where they are. It creates a certain type of fear, and that's how people can't move past it, because they think that if I do something once, it needs to be the glorified example of that. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing. It's a false construct, which enables people to play so small.
Yeah, my take and perspective on the phenomenon you introduce is that sometimes we appear to focus on ourselves. It is exactly our ego that's really taking its toll and preventing us from delivering value. But the moment if we shift the frame of mind and shift the attention, of course, to serving the others, we may embrace a new perspective and outlook where we only focus on how we can be of better service to the client and the recipient of the content that we created. Yeah, I guess the less we focus on ourselves and those so-called limitations and imperfections, the more likely we are to really liberate ourselves and unleash our power to naturally be on the trajectory of continuous improvement. Yeah. And on that account, I reckon it would be a great time if Brian could just briefly encapsulate some of those similar moments that you were in the gown in the last year, where you gave birth to a phenomenal student society in your uni and you magnify each and every aspect of that.
A theme that really encapsulates this episode is, and what Elinor just said before, is that, you don't start with perfect, you end with perfect and you work towards it. And it's really about, not getting stuck in, paralysis by analysis. How do I want a perfect product to push out first. And, with the society, it was the same thing, Steph and I, we've never started a society before. We don't know how one runs, how it looks like, we just know that we have this vision that we want to bring people together and, serve and bring this sort of value. And what Elinor was saying before, sorry, I'm just going everywhere because there's so many things. It is kind of like, yes, we have a rigid structure, but also going with the flow. Sometimes we do have ideas that just come to us that, maybe we should do this, maybe we should run with this. Like, it doesn't fit into the structure right now, but let's just go with it, dibble, and we'll go into it and delve deeper and see where it takes us. And so I think with BEA, the good thing Steph and I, that we could have that control is that we know that we're not going to start with perfect, but we're just going to do it anyways because we have such a strong vision and like passion behind what we're going to do. And at the end of the day, that is what's going to reach through, like, our purpose, our passion. And at the start, you don't, when we run these events, not everyone turns up, we don't get the numbers, but over time, all those small actions, even reaching out to, one or two people, and then at the end of the year, doing a resume, like let's say doing a resume workshop and then review. And then all the way at the end of the year, we get these messages popping up saying, oh, thank you for doing this. I've got a job because of this, or, it's just so rewarding and it feeds itself. So I think just not worrying about, the results so much, but just enjoying the journey, I guess, has really helped Steph and I with, BEA.
That's right. You're more consumed with the what and the why. You relinquish the how. You take strategic and consistent action. And then 1 year, or I think it's a bit more now, you look back and look, wow, we built this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Elinor, another great takeaway from your mentorship thus far is that an entrepreneur should pursue entrepreneurship. So on that, what would be your advice to those in the corporate and in the academia pursuing a degree, those with the hunger and thirst for a greater achievement and who want to make their mark down the track?
That's a great question. If you don't know the rules of the game, how do you win at the game? Now, when people look at the corporate environment, and I do need to premise this, there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but as my mentor Ron Malhotra always says, there is something very wrong with having an employee mindset. At the same time, I'm not promoting that entrepreneurship is a pathway for everyone, but you can think like one. So the thing is, in corporate, what happens, people have ambition, they have drive, they have hunger, but then very slowly, like waves hitting a cliff shore, you lose yourself. Because you subconsciously start to become like everyone else. You think that there is safety in numbers. People think that I shouldn't stand out because if I stand out, it's dangerous. People start qualifying you and they make, snarky comments about you. Oh, who do you think you are wearing that to the office or something absurd? And that's talking from experience, right? So people lose themselves in the corporate system. I was that person. Like I said, I lost 95% of my personality, my drive, my passion, my purpose. I had just that much backbone left after losing so much of myself in order to take back agency over my career. And that's what, of course, spurred everything that I do today. Because I remember one morning in my career, it was Melbourne grey, as bland still of a morning as Melbourne can come. And I remember feeling so dissatisfied, so unfulfilled. I hated the project that I was on. I was working with inadequate management, and I could not project that day across the next 40 years of my career and life. And that was the day when I said, this can't be it. And it couldn't, because that was the day I realized I had to take agency over my career. And this is exactly what most people in corporate are not doing. They have given over the keys to their career to everyone else but themselves. They're not in the driver's seat. They're in the back seat or the boot. Who knows where that car is going? Who knows where it is going to end up? If everyone is playing the same game, but then everyone is also expecting different results, it is literally the marker of stupidity. And I mean that with all due respect. It's not about the person, it's about their mindset. You cannot play the same game as everyone else and miraculously expect different results to happen to you. You don't need to look far except all of human history to realize that has never been the case. But this is the exact strategy that most people use to get far in their career, to have more money come to them, to have more opportunities come to them, to have whatever it is that they want. Not everyone wants the same thing, sure, right? And this is where people are continuously going wrong. And I sometimes find it, how am I still talking about this? But then I realize that people don't shift their perspective. They give the keys to the HR person, they give the keys to a recruiter, they give their keys to their parents. Everyone else will decide what happens in your career except you. So people in the corporate world, great. There's intense opportunity there. There's equal amounts of opportunity because you create opportunity, but you're not in charge of your own career. You are not working on yourself so you can have the opportunities in your career. And again, people are playing the same game and they seek so hard to fit in, but they don't realize that the greatest opportunities will come if they stand out, if they be different. But it takes a lot of courage in the first place to go against the herd, because especially in Australia, I can't speak for other countries, but we have the tall poppy syndrome here, right? Society in Australia is like crabs in a bucket. The minute someone wants to go over the rim of the bucket, everyone pulls them back down. Now, if people do not have the mental fortitude and the inner strength and that pull by their vision, they will go back into their bucket. And that's how dreams die. That's how potential gets left on the table. That's how people have so much over-reliance on their technical skills, thinking if I just get that extra degree, if I just do that extra piece of paper and those extra 5 years of assignments, I will unlock everything I want in my career. But they're failing to realize that this is the exact strategy that they did 20 years ago, and it got them to where they are today. Now they're going to do the same thing, thinking it's going to end them in a different perspective. It's not going to happen. So if people just did these two things, number one, took control of their own career, and number two, decided to be all of who they are, and number three, took immediate and massive unconventional action in the pursuit of their vision, their life would change in 24 hours. It is literally as simple as that. But this is exactly the three things that most people do not do. And that's why for those with ambition, with drive, for the Daisies and Brians of the world, there is so much opportunity, because the most competition is at the base. There's no competition once you get to different levels. There really isn't.
Wow, I really like the depths and breadth that you cover, providing a roadmap as to how we can look to fast track and shorten the trajectory of pain as we're navigating, finding our groove, finding our feet before we really hit a stride. So what do you reckon will be the quickest way or the best way to achieve this in the shorter frame of time, but with the massive and immediate result?
The one thing that I do tell people to start that exploratory journey of self is to think about, what do you really, really, really want? Now, this may sound like a simple question. Oh, Ellen, of course I know what I want. Okay, go write out a one-page vision as to what that is. And what do people come up with? I want to be a insert job title, ceiling. And then I want to have, salary, ceiling. And then I want to have something, of equal small measure, ceiling. And this is one of the, worst types of myths and ideologies that are perpetuated in any industry, is that your employer, the industry, puts a ceiling over you. No, you have built your own ceiling by thinking so small, so rigidly, so narrowly. If you worked on your mindset and your high impact skill set, what ceiling? Where does it exist? But people have internalized this notion that there's a glass ceiling. The only ceiling that is ever built is one that people build for themselves, and it's usually at around 1,000 1 meter AFFL, right? They built it themselves. No one has a ceiling over you. You've done that. Do people want to hear this? No, of course not. So if you just thought about, what do you want in your heart of hearts, go here. And we live in a left brain dominant society, not right brain, and people are disconnected from here. I was disconnected from here. I had to reconnect from here. So whilst it may seem like a seemingly simple question, I talk to people who are 30 years in their career. I ask them what they want, and they give the most generic answer. I want to deliver projects on time, cost, quality, and exceed client expectations. Great. You and everyone else in the industry. How do you all have the same passion? How do you all have the same purpose? It doesn't make sense. So if someone can actually answer the question and go into here and find out what it is that they truly want against all societal mind control, that would be a start. But again, people can't look here. People are too connected in here. People have internalized incorrect career intelligence and conventional ideologies. And then that's how they perpetuate their mediocrity. So you want to change your own trajectory quickly? Ask yourself, what do I really, really, really want?
Wow, that's powerful. Like really in society, we've been taught to be, really outside looking, but, all the power comes from doing the reverse, which is, looking inside and building yourself from the inside out.
Exactly. And where do people don't want to look the most? It's in here. The more that people look outside of themselves for anything, they are increasing their level of ignorance. The more that you look in here, you are reducing your level of ignorance, you are increasing your self-awareness and your self-responsibility. It is literally has an inverse reaction. So if people can do this, and I know, again, it sounds so simple to do, but people cannot do that in a shadow work. This is a very deep place to go into. It makes people feel very uncomfortable because people don't want to let go of everything that they think they know. I mean, to get to where you are both today, you've had to do the same. You've had to let go of so many different things across so many different arenas, not just careers, personal life, relationships, family relationships, the career, like both of your worldviews have changed dramatically over 2 years. And that's not a long period of time. That's actually a short period of time to change your whole worldview. Sometimes it takes them 10 years to get to that point in time. So again, the more that you can do what other people won't do, the more that you'll be able to have what other people won't have, and they will still call you lucky.
Yeah, definitely. And I do concur with you on this, again, being a path less travel. And I imagine one of the reasons is that it is not a vanilla activity to strip ourselves to the core and examine and evaluate objectively who we are in our own skin, with all the titles, occupations, and the affiliation to any organization stripped away who we are actually and what our visions are. And sometimes we may be stuck at a point where we don't have an answer yet, and that this also will create discomfort and sometimes despair as well. And that's how much I appreciate the role of a mentor and a mentorship to really, really, I guess, prevent us from backsliding and stagnating in the groove. Yeah.
And that's what it takes to construct you, the essence of what this podcast stands for, and the essence of what this podcast is, of course, here to continue to do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elinor. Again, I think that's a really good place to leave that at, for, the listeners, to really start that journey, looking inside and asking those right questions. It's a really exciting journey ahead. Yes, there'll be so many challenges and, it won't be a comfortable ride, but it will be, worth it nevertheless. Again, thank you so much, Elinor, for the opportunity, to have Daisy and I, co-host your 200th episode. Like, you've come so far, but, this is only the tip of the iceberg and there's so much more to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, and likewise. And I truly appreciate this experience that you have both poured so much value and energy to. This has been one of my, actually, if not the most enjoyable interview out of all the ones that I've had the privilege of doing, because it is both of you, and also because I am so proud that of who you have become. You have truly embodied and epitomized what this podcast stands for. And I have no doubt that in 10 years from now, even 5 years, because you've just short-circuited the whole process of achievement by pouring into yourself first, by doing that deep inner work, how much you will create, how much you will contribute. I am, again, so truly proud of who you both have become so that you can both achieve what you want. And again, I really do appreciate how special you have made the 200th episode. I don't know how I'll top this for the 300th, but I've got a lot of time until we actually get there and cross that bridge. So thank you for your insightful questions. Thank you for your time and contribution. Again, you've been on the Young Gun episodes and now on this, all the value that you create in your respective ways is magnificent to be a witness to. Onwards and upwards to both of you. Daisy, would you like to say a few words to wrap up?
The best project you can work on is, I'll let you finish.
You. It is you. Absolutely. And you know what? There's still people who disagree with that, and that's fine, but they're missing out on a whole expansive world of so much opportunity. So the greatest project is you, and here's to constructing the Brians and Daisies of the world. Thank you for listening to this very special 200th episode. If you love what you are listening to, please make sure that you go listen to Brian and Stephanie's Young Gun interview. And of course, if you haven't already heard Daisy on the podcast as well, do that. You can subscribe. The links are in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Daisy.
Thanks, Elinor.